If you open your phone and launch the camera app, the default 1x lens focal length is 24mm. Why is that? Why do phone main cameras always use 24mm instead of the more common 35mm or 50mm, which are considered the most golden focal length by photography masters? From a technical perspective, 24mm is wide enough. Some phone manufacturers allow you to simply tap the 1x zoom button to automatically crop to classical focal length like 28mm or 35mm. Tapping 2x zoom crops to 48mm, roughly equivalent to 50mm. This way, a single 24mm main camera can effectively provide 4 focal lengths. Let's approach this from the perspective of human vision. The area that the human eye can fully focus on corresponds roughly to a 35mm focal length. What you see is what you get. A 24mm focal length includes much of the out-of-focus peripheral vision as well. More precisely, the entire field of view of the human eye is equivalent to about 20mm. Anything wider than 20mm introduces a distinct ultra-wide-angle perspective. A 24mm focal length trims the very edge of human vision, which people typically don't notice. Thus, 24mm or 28mm is ideal for close-range photojournalism or daily life documentation, as it captures the full range of what the human eye is accustomed to seeing. Why is the 35mm focal length considered the most challenging to use? Because it aligns with the human eye's focused area. It struggles to break beyond what the eye naturally sees. This can make photos appear flat or unremarkable, unless the composition, lighting, or narrative is exceptionally strong. With technological developments, the way we frame photos has dramatically changed. In the past, cameras relied on optical viewfinders, requiring photographers to hold the camera to their eye for framing. Later, electronic viewfinders replaced optical ones, but the shooting position remained the same. However, real-time screen-based framing emerged during the digital SLR era and became standard in the mirrorless era. Smartphones represent the ultimate form of screen-based framing. When shooting with a screen, the lens perspective shifts significantly. The framing method moves from being pressed against the eye to be held at a distance in front of the eyes, with the viewfinder separated from the viewer. Low-angle and high-angle shots also become much easier. This change in framing has also altered the concept of focal length. When shooting with a camera at 24mm focal length pressed to the eye, it's a wide-angle length covering the eye's field of view. When switching to screen-based framing, with the distance between the photographer and subject unchanged, the lens is closer to the subject, effectively narrowing the field of view from 24mm to around 35mm. If you use a 35mm lens pressed to the eye and move closer to the subject, you can achieve a similar effect. Screen-based framing inherently magnifies the image, roughly by 1.5x, similar to mounting a full-frame lens on an APS-C camera. When you extend your phone forward, the focal length effectively shrinks. Thus, a phone's 24mm main camera is often used as if it were a 35mm focal length in real-world scenarios. This is why phone main cameras excelled at capturing the field of daily life but struggled to produce standout photographic works. If you switch to a phone's 35mm mode, the magnification effect makes it feel like a 15mm focal length. Similarly, a phone's 2x lens feels like a 70mm portrait telephoto length. In essence, a phone's main camera functions like a 35mm to 70mm zoom lens. If you want a true 24mm wide-angle shot, you could hold the phone up to your eye or shoot blindly close to your chest, though this feels awkward. Alternatively, you could step back to capture a wider scene. Some clever users have found that switching to the phone's ultra-wide 13mm lens yields an effect close to 20mm. However, my advice is to stick with the main camera whenever possible, as its larger sensor size produces better results. In summary, a phone's 24mm main camera is effectively a 35mm focal length in traditional terms, a versatile focal length for documenting life. If the main camera were 35mm, the magnification effect in real-world use would make the frame feel too narrow. This explains why manufacturers choose 24mm for main cameras. For interchangeable camera lenses, 24mm prime lenses are not particularly popular, don't hold their value well, and perform poorly in the second-hand market. In a real camera, 24mm offers a wide field of view that captures a lot of information, which can be challenging for serious photographic compositions as it demands strong compositional skills. However, it's excellent for capturing more of life's moments and closely approximates the full human field of view, making it ideal for amateur photographers. Many zoom lenses start at 24mm, such as the Holy Trinity 24 to 70mm f2.8. While 24mm isn't a trendy focal length, it's indispensable. When I travel with the standard zoom lens, I often keep it set at the 24mm for landscapes, portraits, and live documentation. Occasionally, I might capture a decent shot. For a long time, I used a Canon EF 24mm f1.4 lens on a Canon 5D Mark II and Sony a7R Mark II. Now I use it on a Canon R6 Mark II. If I need a 35mm perspective, I can crop it in post-processing or use the camera's built-in 1.6x crop mode, which is similar to the magnification feature of a phone's 24mm main camera. When using screen-based framing on a camera, I automatically get a frame similar to 35mm. This is why I love the 24mm prime lens. It captures more live moments and offers a wider field of view. If I need a 35mm perspective, I can crop or use screen-based framing. The large aperture of a prime lens also performs well in low-light conditions. I have noticed that the most of my photos are taken at either 24mm or 35mm. For portrait-focused shots, I switched to 50mm, 85mm or 135mm prime lenses. I even bought a Canon RF 15 to 35mm f2.8 as a travel lens because it covers my two main focal lengths, 24mm and 35mm. While occasionally I can use 15mm to take ultra-wide shots. On Leica cameras, I primarily use 35mm and 50mm, as Leica's unique optical viewfinder is optimized for just 3 focal lengths: 28, 35, and 50mm. Perhaps because of this, I prefer using 24mm on mirrorless cameras and 35mm on Leica bodies. Of course, this is my personal preference. So what's your favorite focal length? Feel free to leave a comment and let me know. See you next time.